My beloved soul, listen carefully. You thought the silence meant your marriage was dying. You thought the distance meant the love had finally run out. You felt the cold space between you growing wider each day, and somewhere deep inside you began preparing your heart for an ending you never wanted. But what if I told you that this is not the end? What if the tension, the tears, the unanswered conversations are not signs of destruction, but signs that God is restoring the love in your marriage in a way you never expected? My beloved soul, what looks like breaking is actually rebuilding. What feels like loss is actually preparation. And what seems quiet on the surface is thunderously active in the spirit. Before you dismiss this as just another message, pause and breathe, because heaven is doing something profound in your covenant right now. Type, "I receive this," in the comments as a declaration that your marriage will not end in silence but in restoration. Like this video as a sign that you are aligning your heart with divine healing. Subscribe to this channel and click the bell so that every word sent from heaven reaches you on time. And if your spirit feels stirred, send a super thanks as a prophetic act of faith, not to a person, but as a seed into the restoration God is breathing over your covenant. This is not promotion, this is participation. This is not routine, this is agreement. Because something shocking is happening in the spirit realm concerning your marriage, and if you miss this moment, you may misunderstand the season you are standing in. God is restoring the love in your marriage, not the surface-level affection, not the polite smiles, not the temporary calm after arguments, but the deep, trembling, first love fire that once made you look at each other and see destiny. My beloved soul, what you thought was dying is actually being refined. What you labeled as distance was a divine pause. What felt like rejection was protection from words that would have wounded beyond repair. The silence you feared was not abandonment, it was heaven stepping in to prevent permanent damage. You have cried in private. You have asked God why the person who once felt like home now feels like a stranger. You have laid in bed next to someone you love and felt miles apart. But hear this clearly, the story is not ending in coldness. It is turning toward warmth. There is a restoration taking place beneath the surface that you cannot yet fully see. The arguments did not destroy your covenant, they exposed the unhealed parts that needed light. The distance did not erase love, it revealed the places where fear had been quietly building walls. And now, slowly, gently, powerfully, God is dismantling those walls brick by brick. My beloved soul, do not skip this moment, because what you are about to understand will shift how you interpret everything that has happened. You thought the tension meant the end was near. In truth, it meant transformation was near. When two people carry wounds from childhood, past betrayals, disappointments, and unmet expectations, those wounds eventually speak. They speak through tone, through silence, through defensiveness, through withdrawal. But God does not expose wounds to shame you. He exposes them to heal you. The cold conversations were not proof that love was gone. They were proof that deeper love was trying to be born, but could not breathe under layers of pride and pain. Restoration is not loud at first. It does not announce itself with fireworks. It begins quietly, in softened hearts, in small realizations, in moments where one of you chooses patience instead of retaliation. You may not even notice it yet, but something inside your spouse has begun to shift. The irritation is losing its grip. The stubbornness is weakening. The urge to prove a point is slowly being replaced with the desire to protect the bond. Stay with me till the end, something powerful is waiting for you. Because this restoration is not one-sided. It is not about one person changing while the other remains guarded. God is working on both hearts simultaneously, even if the process looks different. While you were praying for visible change, he was working on invisible roots. While you were asking for better communication, he was healing insecurities that made communication difficult. While you were longing for affection, he was rebuilding emotional safety. You must understand this: love does not disappear overnight, but it can be buried under disappointment. And disappointment, when unspoken, becomes resentment. Yet resentment, when surrendered, becomes revelation. There is a reason you have not walked away. There is a reason something inside you still hopes. That hope is not foolishness. It is divine confirmation. My beloved soul, you are not holding on to fantasy, you are holding on to a promise. The covenant you entered was not casual in the eyes of heaven. It was witnessed. It was recorded. It was blessed. And even though free will exists, and choices matter, God specializes in restoring what people think is beyond repair. You may feel tired. You may feel like you have tried everything. But restoration often begins at the point of surrender, not control. The more you tried to force change, the more resistance you felt. Now, as you release the need to manage every outcome, peace is quietly entering your spirit. That peace is a sign. It is the first evidence that love is being reawakened, not through pressure, but through grace. Do not leave yet, heaven has more to reveal. The distance between you and your spouse has felt unbearable at times, but distance can create perspective. Perspective allows both hearts to see what truly matters. The small annoyances that once felt huge are beginning to look insignificant compared to the thought of losing each other. There is a softening happening. A remembering. A recalling of shared laughter, shared struggles, shared dreams. Memory is becoming medicine. And where memory heals, love follows. This season is not about returning to who you were at the beginning. It is about becoming who you were always meant to be together. More mature. More aware. More compassionate. The love being restored now will not be naive. It will be conscious. It will be chosen daily, not assumed. If you remain till the end, the final word will change everything. Because what God restores, He strengthens. What He heals, He deepens. What He revives, He protects. The tears you cried were not wasted. The prayers whispered at night were not ignored. The nights of silence were not meaningless. They were preparation. Preparation for a love that is no longer based only on emotion, but on commitment refined by fire. My beloved soul, this is not the end of your marriage story. It is the turning point. And the love that is returning will surprise you, because it will feel both familiar and brand new at the same time. And as this turning point unfolds, you will begin to notice something subtle but undeniable shifting in the atmosphere of your home. The same rooms that once felt heavy with unspoken frustration will slowly begin to feel lighter. The same conversations that once escalated into conflict will start to soften at the edges. This is not coincidence. This is not random emotional fluctuation. This is divine restoration working quietly, strategically, tenderly. My beloved soul, the love in your marriage is not being patched up, it is being rebuilt from the inside out. What God restores is never returned in a fragile state. It comes back stronger, wiser, and more rooted than before. You may not yet see dramatic changes, but look closely at the small ones. The slightly kinder tone. The pause before reacting. The unexpected moment of concern. These are not accidents. They are evidence. Evidence that hearts are being recalibrated. Evidence that pride is loosening its grip. Evidence that compassion is finding its way back into spaces where ego once stood guard. My beloved soul, do not skip this moment, because what is happening now will shape the next chapter of your covenant. There was a time when both of you were speaking from wounds rather than love. When exhaustion spoke louder than affection. When stress translated into sharp words and misunderstanding. But God has been working beneath those reactions. He has been addressing the roots, not just the symptoms. The frustration you felt was not only about each other. It was about unmet needs, unhealed pain, silent expectations. And instead of allowing those cracks to widen into permanent fractures, heaven intervened. You might have thought God was distant because the answers did not come immediately. But in truth, He was protecting your marriage from impulsive decisions made in emotional storms. He was slowing things down so that neither of you would say words that could not be taken back. Stay with me till the end, something powerful is waiting for you, because understanding this season will prevent you from mislabeling it as failure. This was not failure. This was refinement. Fire does not destroy gold, it purifies it. And your marriage has been going through a purification process. The illusions have been stripped away. The unrealistic expectations have been exposed. The fantasy of effortless love has been replaced with the reality of intentional love. And intentional love is far more powerful. It chooses patience even when emotions are loud. It chooses understanding even when pride feels justified. It chooses connection even when distance feels safer. My beloved soul, the fact that you are still here, still hoping, still listening, is proof that the covenant is not dead. Dead things do not stir longing. Dead love does not awaken prayer. Something alive is still beating beneath the surface, and God is breathing on it. There are moments coming soon when you will look at your spouse and see a glimpse of who they were when you first fell in love. Not because they suddenly changed overnight, but because the layers of defense are falling away. Defense was never their true identity. It was armor. And armor is heavy. When two people wear armor in a marriage, intimacy suffocates. But when the armor comes off, vulnerability returns. And vulnerability is the birthplace of deep love. Do not leave yet, heaven has more to reveal. Because restoration is not only about feelings returning. It is about trust being rebuilt. Trust does not rebuild through grand gestures alone. It rebuilds through consistency. Through showing up. Through keeping small promises. Through choosing transparency over secrecy. Through admitting mistakes without shifting blame. These small acts may not look dramatic, but they are sacred. They are bricks in the foundation of a renewed marriage. My beloved soul, you may have questioned whether your spouse still cares. You may have wondered if their silence meant indifference. But sometimes silence is confusion. Sometimes silence is someone wrestling internally, not knowing how to express what they feel. Not everyone processes pain out loud. Some process it in quiet battles. And while you were interpreting their quietness as withdrawal, they were wrestling with their own shortcomings, their own regrets, their own fears of losing you. If you remain till the end, the final word will change everything, because you will begin to see this season not as abandonment, but as awakening. Awakening to the reality that love is not sustained by chemistry alone. It is sustained by commitment. By humility. By forgiveness. Forgiveness does not excuse harmful behavior, but it releases the poison of resentment. And resentment is what slowly suffocates marriages. God is not asking you to ignore pain. He is inviting you to release it into His hands so it does not harden your heart. A hardened heart cannot receive restored love. But a softened heart can recognize it even in small gestures. My beloved soul, there will be a moment, perhaps unexpectedly, when a conversation flows without tension. When laughter feels natural again. When eye contact lingers a little longer. Do not dismiss that moment as temporary. It will be a glimpse of what is being rebuilt. Restoration often arrives quietly before it becomes obvious. And when it becomes obvious, you will look back and realize it had been unfolding all along. The enemy of marriages is not always dramatic betrayal. Sometimes it is slow emotional drift. But what drifted can return. What weakened can strengthen. What cooled can reignite. And this reigniting will not be chaotic or impulsive. It will be steady. Mature. Grounded. My beloved soul, heaven has not forgotten your vows. Heaven has not ignored your tears. Every prayer whispered in exhaustion has been heard. Every night you cried quietly beside the person you love has been seen. And those tears have watered the soil of restoration. Seeds do not sprout the moment they are planted. They grow underground first. Invisible. Silent. But growth is still happening. Your marriage has been in an underground season. Roots deepening. Foundation strengthening. Perspectives shifting. Soon, what has been developing beneath the surface will rise into visibility. And when it does, it will not feel forced. It will feel natural, like breath returning after being held too long. My beloved soul, continue to choose gentleness. Continue to choose patience. Not because your spouse deserves perfection, but because your marriage deserves grace. And grace is the atmosphere where restored love flourishes. This is not the end of your story. This is the quiet rebuilding before the beautiful renewal. And when love fully resurfaces, it will not be the same as before. It will be deeper, calmer, safer. It will carry the wisdom of everything you both survived. And one day, you will speak about this season not as the time your marriage almost ended, but as the time it was transformed. And as this transformation continues to unfold, you will begin to recognize that what once triggered you will no longer have the same power. The words that used to ignite instant defensiveness will lose their sting. The habits that once irritated you will begin to look smaller, almost insignificant compared to the value of the bond you share. This is not emotional numbness. This is maturity rising. This is perspective expanding. My beloved soul, God is not simply restoring romance, He is restoring understanding. And understanding is the soil where lasting love grows. When two people begin to truly see each other beyond roles, beyond expectations, beyond daily stress, something sacred happens. You stop fighting each other and start fighting for each other. The shift is subtle but life-changing. The energy in your home begins to change. The tension that once hovered in the air starts to dissolve. Even your body will feel it. The constant tightness in your chest will ease. The anxiety that once accompanied every difficult conversation will soften. Because when love is being restored, peace follows. My beloved soul, do not skip this moment, because what you are living through right now will one day become the testimony that strengthens someone else's faith. You are not just surviving a difficult season, you are being positioned to understand love on a deeper level than you ever have before. There were misunderstandings that felt like betrayal. There were disappointments that felt intentional. But as clarity increases, you will realize that many of those moments were born from fear, not malice. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of losing control. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear can disguise itself as anger. It can sound like indifference. It can look like distance. But when fear is addressed, love can breathe again. Stay with me till the end. Something powerful is waiting for you, because the next phase of your marriage will not resemble the fragile stage you just walked through. It will be anchored in something steadier. There will be new conversations, not forced, not rehearsed, but organic. Conversations where apologies come without being extracted. Conversations where both of you speak honestly without attacking. Conversations where listening becomes more important than winning. My beloved soul, restoration does not erase the past, it redeems it. The painful memories will not vanish, but they will lose their power to control your present. Instead of being reminders of hurt, they will become reminders of how far you have come. And one day, when you sit together in a calm moment, you will both quietly acknowledge that you almost let something precious slip away. That realization will not bring shame. It will bring gratitude. Gratitude that you held on. Gratitude that you prayed instead of quitting. Gratitude that God stepped in when you both were too exhausted to fix it yourselves. Do not leave yet, heaven has more to reveal. Because there is a tenderness coming back into your marriage that you thought was gone forever. A softness in tone. A gentleness in touch. A renewed desire to protect each other's feelings instead of testing them. You may notice small gestures returning. A thoughtful message. A longer hug. A spontaneous smile. These are not random acts. They are signals that walls are collapsing. And when walls fall, intimacy rises. My beloved soul, intimacy is not only physical closeness. It is emotional safety. It is the freedom to express without fear of ridicule. It is the comfort of knowing that even in disagreement, you are still chosen. God is rebuilding that safety. Brick by brick. Moment by moment. There may still be occasional misunderstandings, but they will no longer spiral into emotional earthquakes. They will be resolved with growing wisdom. Because both of you are learning. Learning how to respond instead of react. Learning how to pause instead of provoke. Learning how to love in a way that heals rather than harms. If you remain till the end, the final word will change everything, because you will see that this restoration is not accidental, it is intentional. Heaven is intentional about covenant. What was spoken before witnesses, what was promised in sincerity, carries weight in the spiritual realm. And while people are imperfect, God's ability to restore is not. My beloved soul, the love that is returning will feel more secure. It will not depend solely on mood. It will not disappear during stress. It will not crumble under pressure as easily as before. It will be tested love. And tested love is resilient. There will be moments when you look at your spouse and feel a quiet appreciation, a renewed respect, even a rediscovered admiration. You will see their efforts. You will recognize their growth. And they will begin to see yours. That mutual recognition will create a new foundation. Not one built on fantasy, but on reality embraced with grace. You are not returning to the innocence of the beginning. You are stepping into a wiser version of love. A love that has survived misunderstanding. A love that has endured silence. A love that has walked through doubt and chosen to stay. My beloved soul, one day soon you will feel a sense of calm assurance about your marriage that you have not felt in a long time. It will not be loud. It will not be dramatic. It will be steady. A deep knowing that you are no longer on the brink of collapse. A quiet confidence that what you are building now will last. And when that peace settles in, you will realize that God did not waste this season. He used it. He used it to refine your patience. He used it to expose areas that needed growth. He used it to teach both of you that love is not sustained by passion alone, but by daily intentional choice. My beloved soul, this restoration is sacred. Protect it. Nurture it. Speak life over it. Refuse to let temporary frustration overshadow long-term commitment. Continue to pray not from desperation, but from gratitude. Because what once felt like it was slipping through your fingers is now being secured by divine hands. And as the days unfold, you will see more evidence. More harmony. More unity. More warmth. The laughter will return more naturally. The silence will feel peaceful instead of heavy. The future will begin to look hopeful instead of uncertain. And when you look back at this season, you will not remember it only for the pain. You will remember it as the moment your marriage was reshaped into something deeper, stronger, and more aligned than ever before. My beloved soul, God is restoring the love in your marriage, not as it was, but as it was always meant to be. And as this divinely guided restoration reaches its fullness, you will begin to sense that something permanent has shifted within both of you. It will not feel like a temporary emotional high. It will feel anchored. Grounded. Established. The same issues that once felt like mountains will now feel like manageable hills. Not because they disappeared, but because you both have grown stronger. My beloved soul, growth changes the weight of problems. What once overwhelmed you now teaches you. What once threatened to divide you now becomes an opportunity to unite. This is what divine restoration does. It does not erase history, it transforms its meaning. The arguments that once felt like proof of incompatibility will be reframed as moments that exposed areas needing maturity. The tears that once felt like weakness will be understood as release. And the silence that once terrified you will be remembered as the space where God worked quietly behind the scenes. My beloved soul, do not skip this moment, because you are standing at the edge of a new emotional landscape within your marriage. The air feels different now. There is less tension in your spirit. Less anxiety about what tomorrow holds. You are no longer bracing yourself for the next conflict. Instead, you are beginning to expect peace. That expectation is not naive optimism. It is spiritual alignment. You are aligning with the truth that love can be restored, strengthened, and sustained when surrendered to divine guidance. There will be moments very soon when you both reflect on this season with honest humility. You will acknowledge the mistakes without defensiveness. You will admit where pride once stood in the way. And instead of feeling shame, you will feel relief. Relief that you did not allow temporary pain to destroy permanent promise. Stay with me till the end, something powerful is waiting for you, because the most beautiful part of this restoration is not just that love returns, it is that respect deepens. Respect for each other's vulnerability. Respect for the effort it took to stay. Respect for the courage required to forgive. When respect deepens, love stabilizes. And a stable love is not easily shaken. My beloved soul, there is also a renewal of friendship happening within your marriage. Beyond the responsibilities, beyond the routines, beyond the pressures of life, you will rediscover companionship. You will begin to enjoy each other again without forcing it. Conversations will stretch longer, not out of obligation, but out of genuine interest. Shared laughter will feel healing. Even quiet moments together will feel comfortable instead of strained. This is the evidence of emotional safety returning. Emotional safety is the heartbeat of lasting intimacy. And as it strengthens, affection will follow naturally. Touch will feel meaningful again. Words of affirmation will feel sincere. Acts of kindness will feel intentional. This is not performance. This is restoration. Do not leave yet, heaven has more to reveal. Because there is a future unfolding that looks different from what you feared. The images you once had of separation, loneliness, and regret are being replaced with visions of stability, growth, and shared purpose. You will begin to dream together again. Plans that once felt uncertain will regain clarity. Hope will replace hesitation. And in that hope, you will recognize that this marriage was not meant to collapse under pressure, it was meant to be strengthened by it. My beloved soul, understand this deeply, the love being restored now carries wisdom. It carries discernment. It carries boundaries that protect rather than restrict. You both have learned where to tread carefully. You have learned the importance of tone, timing, and tenderness. These lessons will guard your future. They will prevent old cycles from repeating. And even if disagreements arise, they will no longer spiral into threats of giving up. They will be handled with maturity. With calmness. With mutual desire to resolve rather than to win. If you remain till the end, the final word will change everything, because the final word over your marriage is not broken, it is blessed. It is not failure, it is favor. It is not defeat, it is development. My beloved soul, as this chapter closes, you will realize that what felt like the darkest season of your marriage was actually the soil where the strongest roots were formed. Roots of patience. Roots of empathy. Roots of endurance. And trees with deep roots do not fall easily. The storms may come again in different forms, because life will always bring challenges. But the foundation you now stand on is reinforced. Reinforced by prayer. Reinforced by humility. Reinforced by the conscious choice to love even when it required effort. One day, perhaps sooner than you expect, you will look at your spouse during an ordinary moment and feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Not just for who they are, but for what you both survived together. That gratitude will bring tears, not of sorrow, but of appreciation. Appreciation that God restored what you thought was slipping away. Appreciation that your covenant was refined rather than replaced. Appreciation that love did not fade, it evolved. My beloved soul, this is the end of the season of fear. This is the end of constantly questioning whether your marriage will survive. You are stepping into stability. Into deeper connection. Into a love that is no longer fragile, but fortified. And as you move forward, carry this truth in your heart. Restoration is proof that nothing surrendered to God is ever wasted. He restores gently. He restores intentionally. He restores completely. And now, as this message settles within you, breathe deeply and receive this assurance. The love in your marriage is not only being restored, it is being redefined in its purest, strongest form. What was once uncertain is becoming secure. What was once distant is becoming close. What was once heavy is becoming light. My beloved soul, your marriage is not ending in loss. It is rising in renewal. And the story that continues from here will be marked not by what almost broke you, but by what ultimately bound you closer than ever before. Type Amen.